me start with a question. When did everything become an emergency? Not a problem, not a challenge, not something to work on, an emergency. Open your phone, turn on YouTube, scroll a podcast feed, and it's the same message again and again. The UK is finished. Society is collapsing. We're more divided than ever. Nothing works. No one's in charge. It only is going to get worse. And these aren't just random voices. They're coming from people a lot of us listen to, people my wife listens to, people like Jim Davison, Konstantin Kissin, Steve Bartlett, Chris Williamson, thoughtful people, smart people, people who clearly care. And yet, so often, the conclusion is exactly the same. We're heading for disaster. And I'm a bit sick of it. So today, I want to slow that right down. Not to argue, not to mock, certainly not to dismiss, just to ask calmly, is that actually true? Here's why this matters. Because when you're told every day that things are hopeless, you start to live like they are. You get cynical, you get disengaged, you stop believing improvement is even possible. And hopeless people don't fix things. They just survive them. I work in healthcare. I see pressure, I see strain, I see systems creaking. But you know what? I also see something else. I see people still showing up, still caring, still holding the line, to use a Babylon 5 term. That never makes headlines. So this podcast is solely for existing in that space in between denial and despair. Let's take one recent example. Jim Davison recently talked about the idea that the UK might be heading towards civil conflict the other day, in fact. Now, if you actually listen carefully, he isn't saying this is definitely happening. He's talking about how things feel: angry, divided, frustrated. And he's not wrong about that. People do feel stretched. Costs are up, services are under pressure, I should say, and trust is becoming fragile. And those feelings are real, undeniable. But I think he's missing a key point. Feelings are not forecasts. Feeling like something is falling apart, isn't the same as it actually falling apart. And that's a distinction that really, really matters. With Konstantin Kissin and Chris Williamson, you often hear something similar. Both people I really admire, that Western society is declining, we're weaker, the standards are falling, that things were better before. That's why we've moved abroad. The UK, the shit on the UK. And again, they raise important questions. But the framing often slips into, it's all going wrong. Steve Bartlett, from a different angle, talks about economic pressure, ambition, burnout, and sometimes that feeds into the same sense of looming collapse. Different styles, same emotional conclusions. We're in trouble. The UK's screwed. It's a terrible place to live. You should all leave while you can. And they just crap on it from a great height after they've left. But let's ground this. What does a country actually look like when it's collapsing? Historically, it kind of looks like this. Armed groups controlling areas, police and military breaking apart, elections not functioning, hospitals closing en masse, public services stopping, supply chains failing, etc., etc. That's what collapse looks like. That is not what the UK looks like whatsoever. We have functioning elections. We have a national service that's still treating millions. Police, fire, ambulance services still operating, schools still teaching, councils still running, trains still running, sometimes late, but running. The point is, this is not a failed state. The UK is not a failing country. It's a strained state. But that's the difference. So why does it feel so bad? Well, in my opinion, there's three reasons. We're living inside a crisis machine. Social media does not help. Algorithms reward fear. That's why we click on them. Outrage spreads, calm doesn't. Think of the pandemic. So you're constantly shown the worst story of the day, not the normal one. The normal one's not interesting. Secondly, negativity feels intelligent. In modern culture, optimism is treated as naive. Cynicism sounds clever. Hope sounds childish and immature. So public figures and social media figures drift towards pessimism because it feels serious. It comes across as serious. And thirdly, we see everything everywhere all the time. In the past, you're worried about your street, your town, your workplace, your friends. Now we're worrying about the entire planet because we've got easy access to it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our nervous systems were not built for that. As a nurse, take my word for it. Let me tell you what I see personally. I see nurses staying with dying patients, staying late with dying patients. I see healthcare assistants buying snacks for people who forgot theirs. I see neighbours still checking on other neighbours. I see teachers holding kids together emotionally every day. I see parents exhausted, still present. All I see is decency every single day, quietly, unrecorded, unmonetized. That's the UK. That's our real country, not the comment section or a podcaster's negative view of it. That is the UK I live in. Now, every good story has a messy middle, and as an author, I can testify to that as well. The hero doubts, the system fails, everything looks unstable. That's good storytelling. That's Act 2. That's the middle act of the story. We're in Act 2. This isn't the ending. We're The Empire Strikes Back. We haven't gotten a Return of the Jedi yet. There are problems, serious ones, absolutely. But we also have medical breakthroughs, cleaner energy, lower violence than decades ago, greater inclusion, better survival rates, more awareness around mental health, more community networks. I could go on. Progress is not dramatic. Progress is boring. So no one films it. So here's what I would like to leave you with today. Be careful who gets to narrate your reality, the Russell Brands, the Chris Williamsons, the Konstantin Kissins. If you only listen to people who say everything is doomed, you'll start to believe it. And all of them, bar one, are wonderful people in my opinion. But you'll miss the truth. And the truth is, this is a difficult moment. But it's not a hopeless one. It's not. We're stretched. We're not broken. We're bruised. We're definitely not beaten. The world is not and has never been nor ever will be perfect, but it's still standing, and so are we. And that's what you need to remember. So until next time, be kind, be curious, stay grounded.